They say power changes people. That's not true. It reveals them. The day my boss fired me, it was raining. Not dramatic thunderstorm rain, just the quiet, unbothered kind that seeps into your clothes and bones. The kind of rain that doesn't care what you're losing. I remember standing outside Green Corp's glass tower, a monument to greed disguised as innovation, holding the cardboard box that contained the last 10 years of my life. A photo of my cat, a plant I never watered enough, a mug that said "Code like a girl." The security guard avoided my eyes. He'd seen too many exits like mine. But what no one knew, what no one could know, was that I had been planning this day for months. Not the firing. That came as a surprise. But what came after? See, people like my boss think loyalty is something you can buy with a paycheck and a pizza party. They think obedience is a virtue. They think silence is safety. But I've always believed in something else. Precision. You don't scream. You don't rage. You just let the fuse burn. And the day I walked out of that building, I wasn't losing my job. I was taking back everything they stole, my code, my time, my worth. They thought they fired me, but really, they just freed me to finish the job. His name was Ethan Sterling, 19 years old, born rich, raised spoiled. He was the kind of person who believed "thank you" was a phrase meant for other people. He strolled into Green Corp's open-plan office on his first day, wearing a suit that cost more than my car. His handshake was limp, his cologne was loud, and his voice, sharp, nasal, carried across the room. "I'm here to shadow my dad," he said to the receptionist. "Make sure you all know how real business is done." I almost laughed. The only thing real about Ethan was his arrogance. His father, David Sterling, was the CEO, a man with perfect teeth, polished shoes, and an uncanny ability to fake empathy. He'd been my mentor once. Taught me how to manage men smarter than you. I'd smiled then, not realizing that "manage" was just a euphemism for use. Ethan made himself known fast. He'd lean over my desk without asking, correct my work without reading it. Once, he asked if I could pretty up the graphs, because women are good with colors. I told him the graphs were fine. He smirked and said, "That's cute." That's when I knew it was only a matter of time before this boy tried to break something he didn't understand. 2 months later, the company was on the brink of its biggest deal yet. A $200 million contract to license Echelon, my proprietary AI software. The system that could analyze global markets faster than any existing algorithm. It was my baby, my life's work. But on paper, it was Green Corp's flagship innovation. Or so they thought. See, when I'd joined years ago, I'd slipped in a clause. One line of legal armor. Intellectual property ownership remains with the creator unless transferred under separate signed agreement. That separate agreement? Never signed. Every night, I'd updated the code from my private repository. Quietly, legally, perfectly clean. Then Ethan arrived, and within a week, he decided he wanted in. He started showing up at meetings he didn't belong in, questioning technical reports he didn't understand. Then, one afternoon, he spilled coffee over a prototype terminal, fried half the test environment. When I asked him to step out of the lab, he grinned. "Relax, sweetheart. Daddy'll buy you another computer." My team froze. He laughed. And that's when I said it, calm, deliberate. "I'm not your assistant, Ethan. And I'm not your sweetheart." He went silent, then smirked, and walked away. That night, I knew he'd tell his father, but I didn't care, because I'd already set things in motion. It happened 3 days later. David called me into his glass office. His tone was clipped, his smile mechanical. "I've been getting feedback," he began. "From your son?" I asked. He looked away. "Ethan says you've been confrontational. It's causing a toxic environment." My pulse was steady. Because I told him I wasn't his assistant? He sighed. You've done incredible work here, truly. But we're a family company. We protect our own. Meaning your son? He flinched. Meaning harmony, respect, and obedience? I asked softly. His face hardened. You're terminated effective immediately. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I just stood, smoothed my blazer, and said, You might want to check your email. He frowned, clicked, and went pale. The subject line, License Revocation Notice, Echelon AI. The attachments, my signed patent. The legal clause confirming I owned the algorithm. 2 offers from their biggest competitors. He stared at the screen, speechless. I thought the company owned that, he stammered. Read page 37, I said. The company owns the name. I own the brains. Then I smiled. The first genuine smile I'd given him in years. Good luck explaining that to the board. And with that, I walked out, past his assistant's wide eyes, past Ethan's smirk that faltered as he saw his father's face turn white. In the elevator, I caught my reflection, calm, sharp, alive. For the first time in a decade, I felt free. It didn't even take 24 hours. By the next morning, Green Corp's headquarters was in full-blown chaos. Emails pinged, phones rang, investors demanded explanations that no one could give. Because when I revoked the license to Echelon, I didn't just pull their software. I pulled the foundation under their entire valuation. Without the algorithm, they were nothing more than a glossy PR shell with good lighting. I knew how their systems worked. I knew how their dependencies linked, how their backups were structured. Every server, every test environment, every single trace of my algorithm. I'd locked behind an encryption key only I possessed. That morning, I watched it unfold from the corner table of a small cafe across the street. I wasn't hiding. I was observing. Through the window, I saw them pacing like trapped animals. David on the phone with the board. Ethan arguing with the IT director, gesturing wildly. The team, my team, standing around, whispering, confused, scared. The TV in the cafe played a muted business channel. Green Corp shares tumble 18, after internal conflict reported. The headline crawled across the screen like poetry. And yet, even as satisfaction curled through me, there was something else beneath it, a dull ache. Because once, I'd believed in this place. Once, I'd believed in him. David had been my mentor, the one who'd told me I had a mind sharper than most men he'd met, the one who said, You'll go far, just stay loyal. But loyalty meant obedience, and obedience had a price. Now he was paying it. My phone buzzed. An email from a name I recognized, Avery Locke Legal Counsel. Ms. Hart, we request an urgent meeting regarding your ownership of the Echelon algorithm. The Green Corp board wishes to discuss a possible reinstatement or acquisition. I smiled. Too late for peace. This wasn't negotiation. This was war. They called me into a conference 2 days later. Neutral ground. A sleek glass law office downtown, all white marble and fake smiles. David was there, looking 10 years older. Ethan sat beside him, still pretending he had authority, but his hands shook every time he adjusted his tie. The lawyer, a smooth man in an expensive suit, smiled at me. Ms. Hart, he began, Green Corp would like to offer you a settlement in exchange for full rights to Echelon. Interesting, I said. What's the offer? $500,000. I laughed. Not a nervous laugh, the kind that comes from disbelief so sharp it's funny. You're offering me $500,000, I said, leaning forward, for technology that underpins your entire infrastructure, that investors valued at $200 million? David's jaw clenched. That's all we can authorize right now, he said. You're hurting people, Maya. Good people. The company employs hundreds. Oh, don't do that, I said softly. Don't make this about the innocent. You didn't think about them when you fired me to please your son. Ethan spoke up. You're acting like a psycho. You can't just— Can't what? I cut in. Take back what's mine. He looked at his father, desperate for backup. David stared at me for a long time, then sighed. What do you want, Maya? The room went quiet. The city hummed outside the glass. I let the silence breathe before answering. I don't want your money. I want your confession. His brows furrowed. I want you to send a company-wide memo, I continued, admitting that Green Corp unlawfully claimed intellectual property that didn't belong to it. I want you to clear my name publicly, the same way you fired me publicly. Then I'll consider licensing the code back, under my terms. David's face turned crimson. That would destroy us. Exactly, I said. I stood, gathered my bag, and walked out. Behind me, I heard Ethan mutter, She's bluffing, and I smiled to myself, because I wasn't. That night, Green Corp tried to launch Echelon anyway, without authorization. I knew they would. That's why, a week earlier, I'd added a final layer of security, a silent failsafe deep in the algorithm's core. When they booted it up, it didn't crash. It talked. A simple message appeared across every terminal. Unauthorized use detected. Access revoked by creator. Maya Hart 2025. The logs showed that every connected system automatically shut down within minutes. Files encrypted. Access locked. Every investor who saw it realized the company wasn't innovating. It was bleeding. Within 3 days, the board forced David to step down. Ethan vanished from social media. And I signed a contract with Lyratech, Green Corp's biggest rival. Triple the salary, stock options, and full creative control. Revenge, as it turns out, was excellent career planning. The first morning at Lyratech felt like walking into light after years underground. No toxic politics, no whispered alliances. Just engineers, coders, innovators, people who cared about what they were building. My new office overlooked the river. I replaced my coffee mug with a new one. Build, break, begin again. It became my mantra. Lyratech gave me everything Green Corp never did. Freedom, trust, respect. They didn't just buy my algorithm, they bought into me. Within a month, I led a new team, one of my own choosing. And when we presented the next generation prototype, Echelon 2, Zerosho, I named the system's primary subroutine Echo, because that's what revenge leaves behind. An echo. It doesn't scream. It whispers. Forever. A month later, an email landed in my inbox from David Sterling. Just a single line. Was it worth it? I replied. Every second. When giants fall, they don't crash all at once. They creak, they bend, and then they crumble. Green Corp's collapse began with silence, the kind that fills a room before the storm. Investors withdrew. Partnerships dissolved. Their tech conference keynote was canceled the morning of, when their servers refused to boot. The stock plummeted another 32. Reporters started circling like vultures. I didn't need to leak anything. The cracks were loud enough. But then the calls began. An anonymous journalist reached out first. Ms. Hart, she said, her tone sharp but curious. Is it true Green Corp stole your work? I can't comment, I said, but I can confirm my intellectual property rights are protected. She didn't need more. The next day, the headline broke. Whistleblower exposes nepotism and theft inside Green Corp. They didn't use my name, but everyone in the industry knew. 2 days later, Ethan was photographed leaving the office in tears, security escorting him out. David gave a statement, one of those hollow apologies that say nothing real. Mistakes were made. We aim to rebuild trust. But trust, once burned, doesn't rebuild. It calcifies into memory. I watched it all unfold from my apartment balcony, rain streaking the glass. It should have felt triumphant, but instead, it felt quiet, not peace, not guilt, just quiet. A month after Green Corp's bankruptcy filing, I got an email from Business Global Weekly. They wanted to feature me. Not about revenge, the editor wrote. About innovation. About women reclaiming power in tech. I almost said no, but something inside me whispered, "Tell your story. On your terms." The day of the interview, the camera lights were blinding. The journalist, Lena, smiled as she clicked on her recorder. "You've become something of a symbol," she said. "The woman who outsmarted her corrupt bosses." I smiled faintly. "I didn't outsmart them. I just stopped underestimating myself." She leaned in. "Do you think they got what they deserved?" I thought about it. The ruined company. The father stripped of power. The son humiliated in public. And me, standing here, untouchable. "Yes," I said finally. "But not because I wanted revenge. Because accountability is justice." Lena nodded slowly. "Do you ever miss it? The old team?" I exhaled. "Sometimes. But I learned something important. When someone shuts the door on you, it's usually because they're afraid you'll see what's inside. And when you finally do, you realize you never belonged there anyway." The interview went viral. People called me the code breaker. Companies reached out for collaborations. But what mattered most wasn't the fame. It was the peace that came from finally being seen. It was almost a year later when I saw him again. David. I was leaving a conference in San Francisco, heading toward my car, when I heard a voice. "Maya." I turned. He looked smaller somehow, shoulders bent, hair grayer, eyes tired. "I didn't come to argue," he said quickly. "I just wanted to say, I'm sorry." The words hung in the cool night air. "I should have protected you," he continued. "You were the best thing that ever happened to that company. I let my son's ego ruin everything." For a moment, I saw not the man who betrayed me, but the man who once believed in me. I nodded. "Apology accepted," I said. He looked almost relieved. "Maybe, someday, you'll let me make it right." I gave him a small, sad smile. "You already did," I said, "by losing." And I walked away. Sometimes I still think about that first day, when Ethan snapped his fingers at me, demanding coffee. How small I felt then. How powerless. Now I sip espresso in my Paris office, overlooking the Seine. My company, Ecosystems, just hit its first billion-dollar valuation. My engineers are building technologies that will outlive all of us. And every time someone asks where I found the courage to start over, I tell them the truth. It wasn't courage. It was clarity. Because revenge isn't about destroying them. It's about rebuilding you. I looked at the framed patent on my wall, my name, in black ink, my creation, my life, and beneath it, a quote etched in gold: "The best payback is peace." Then I smiled, turned back to my work, and whispered to myself, "Let them learn."